Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. It is so awesome to be here. We have a fantastic show planned for you today, but not just a fantastic show. If you can't tell, that's a new background behind me. We're freshening up, updating the studio. We're not quite done yet, but we did get a lot done over the weekend. And so I want the camera to pan a little bit. Sorry, you guys, you're going to miss me for a second. Oh, yeah, take a look. Look at our new studio wall. This is sitting behind Butter. Show them, put it on camera one so you can see Butter and how this, that's how Butter's going to look now. Tiger Woods, Caitlin Clark flanking him, Magic Johnson, Jeff George. I had someone, could you pan up a little bit? I had someone asked me over the weekend, because I put out a video over the weekend about the updated studio, and someone's, what's your deal with Jeff George? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You know, what's my deal with Jeff George? He was my backup quarterback in high school. Everybody knows that. Well, that's what I said over it, but he wasn't my backup. He was my teammate in high school. You know, I'm the biggest Jeff George groupie fan in the history of the planet. Anyway, and then, go back to the cards on the wall. My brother, the pictures on the wall, not the helmets, the pictures on the wall. But my brother saw the video, and he texted me like, who's Sophie Cunningham? And I'm like, who is Sophie Cunningham? The second greatest player in the WNBA? You don't know who Sophie Cunningham is? Other than Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham is the main reason to watch the WNBA. And then, of course, we have my helmets here. My Warren Central High School helmet is the black helmet with the W on it. Could we get that? Yeah. Then that's a Ball State helmet. It has the number 67 on it. For my roommate and one of my best friends at Ball State, my offensive line mate, Brian Outlaw, who passed away. Then we got the Tennessee Titans helmet. We're here in Nashville. And, of course, I'm a longtime Kansas City Chiefs fan with my Ball State flag hanging over top. We're going to do some work we still got some work to do on the other side of the studio, but, you know, this half of the studio, what's behind me and what's to the right of me, I think to the left of you guys on screen, who knows what side it's on. But anyway, we're working on that. All right, put me back on full screen. Here we go. Anyway, I just wanted to update you guys on the work we're doing here, trying to improve this show. And as we move here into the mornings and we focus more on sports, we wanted more of a sports theme. I'm also making progress at my home studio and my home renovation. And that studio in my home is going to be amazing too. It'll have a different theme, kind of a Masterpiece Lounge theme. Any of you guys ever heard me talk about the Masterpiece Lounge? That's my dad's bar. It was my favorite place on earth. My dad has passed. We ended up selling the Masterpiece Lounge. But man, that studio is going to be incredible as well. But you didn't come here to talk about the studio and the upgrades we made. You came here to hear my take on sports. And man, do we have a lot of ground to cover today. Of course, we're going to start with Deion Sanders. And we'll mix it. It's a Fearless Football Monday, so we're going to start with football. But there's two major stories in football this week. Deion Sanders, the Colorado Buffaloes, complete a Hail Mary, knock off Baylor, save their season, and are 3-1, just like last year. And Jerry Jones and the Cowboys are 1-2 and off to a very disappointing start. And so it's like deja fools all over again. We'll do that, but you don't want to miss the end of the show. Today is Monday. We're going to cover college football, the NFL. Steve Kim will be here. I'm going to end the show all by myself, talking about my most passionate topic, Caitlin Clark. Did you see Caitlin Clark got stabbed in the eye? Play the video. She got stabbed in the eye in her first playoff game by this woman, Dejanay Carrington. This is intentional. She got stabbed in the eye, black eye throughout the game. After the game, you could see it. Caitlin Clark played terribly or shot the ball terribly, and the Indiana Fever got smoked, got beat by 20-some-odd points, and just were never really in the game in a real way. The score was close, but you could just tell they're not in this game. We're going to get into the stabbing of Caitlin Clark and what the WNBA should do about it. Carrington, this DJ Carrington needs to be suspended for game 2, but you don't want to miss the end of the show. I'm really fired up about that. So let me get into today's topic. Deja Fools and Deion Sanders at the top of that list. And it's really not about Deion Sanders as much as the reaction to Baylor's 3-1 start. It's like, hey, we've been here before. Is everybody's memory that bad? Deion and Colorado Saturday night pull off a Hail Mary pass with 2 seconds to go, send the game into overtime, win the game in overtime, calls a fumble, and oh my God, you would have thought they won the Super Bowl. Baylor was 3-9 last year. And Baylor was in control of that game and would have won the game if not for the idiocy of their head coach. But everybody is acting like, oh my God, Deion, what a program builder. And oh, this is just amazing. We'll start with, I want to show you all Dave Portnoy's tweet that other people responded to while they're acting like something incredible has just gone on here because because Colorado avoided disaster. What Deion has done at Colorado is remarkable. They were the worst Power 5 program in the country before he got there. They were 3-1 last year, same as they were 3-1 this year. Getting to 3-1 last year, they were more impressive than they've been getting to 3-1 this year. But somehow we now have testimony and evidence and proof that Deion Sanders has done something incredible. Oh my God, he's the face of college football. It's a miracle what he's done, the turnaround. Are you kidding me? And when I was saying this yesterday over Twitter, or Saturday night over Twitter and yesterday, people, oh, you're just a hater, Whitlock. No, my memory isn't shot. I don't have Alzheimer's just yet. We've been here before. If that Hail Mary isn't completed because of the idiocy of the Baylor head coach and that prevent defense that they played at the end of the game, that wasn't really a prevent defense. They only had 2 safeties at the end zone at the start of that. They left 3 wide receivers one-on-one in a Hail Mary situation. If it wasn't for the idiocy of the Baylor coach, what's the conversation now about the 2-2 Colorado Buffaloes who couldn't beat a bad Baylor team? Colorado has faced one decent quarterback, Nebraska, the freshman kid Raiola. He's a decent quarterback. The rest of these quarterbacks have been garbage, and this Robertson kid that played for Baylor, the Baylor coaching staff was so afraid of him, they wouldn't let him put the game away. It's deja fools all over again, and you're being the fools. If you buy into what you just saw from Deion and these guys, there's some kind of proof that he's turned the program around. They cannot pass protect. Shedeur holds the ball way too long. Shedeur was inaccurate. Did not look like a first-round pick yesterday or Saturday. They're weak against the pass. Again, they can't rush the passer. They have improved in terms of stopping the run. I will give them that. But they can't get pass pressure. They haven't truly been tested as a run defense, in my opinion, other than the Nebraska game, and I give them some credit for improving. But they can't block. Baylor was getting to Shedeur anytime they wanted. This was, you make your own luck, but this was luck. And that's why Deion and his son, Shedeur, spent so much time praising God after the game, because they know they didn't do it. They know they got lucky. And so they had to credit a higher authority because they know, like, man, we should be 2-2 right now and basically the laughingstock of America. But for some reason, we were given a reprieve. And it looks like the reprieve's only going to last another 5 days. Because according to Las Vegas, and again, when I was saying all this yesterday, like, man, this wasn't impressive, blah, blah, blah. Vegas comes out with the line against Central Florida. Central Florida opened at -11. I've seen it move up to as high as -14. People are running around like Deion has done something incredible, and look how great the Buffaloes are, and oh, he's the face of college football, and it's amazing. You're a 2-touchdown underdog to Central Florida, and you've executed the greatest turnaround in college football history? You've done something amazing? Vegas saw what I saw. They got lucky. Vegas saw what Deion and his boys saw. They got lucky. Let's start with shot number one, Deion Sanders in his post-game press conference. Some of this is, anyway, let's play the clip and then I'll explain. Shot one.
You better believe it.
Hey,
yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Let's pray.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
God, we thank you tonight for victory. Thank you that you kept us relatively safe. Yes. Thank you that in spite of our imperfections, you still blessed us.
Yes, Lord.
And thank you for being with us to the end. Yes. Lord, some people call it Hail Mary. Yes. Some people call it karma. Yes. Some people call it luck. Yes. But in my faith tradition, we call it Jesus. Yes.
So in the Colorado locker room, they think Jesus completed that Hail Mary. And this is one of my issues with Deion in terms of his lack of understanding of true Christian faith. But I'm not even going to go there today. I'm just going to go with, they know they should have lost. In their heart of hearts, they know, like, hey, the improvement we thought we were going to have, we barely got out of against Baylor with a victory, and Baylor's not any good. And the other coach handed us the game with one of the worst defensive calls in the history of football. In the history of football. What Baylor did at the end of that game, leaving 3 receivers one-on-one. You keep in mind, Colorado had the ball at the 43-yard line. Not on Baylor's 43-yard line, not Colorado's 43-yard line. And you leave 3 guys one-on-one on the final play of the game? It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and I said it in real time, like, what are they doing? And Deion and them know it. Let's listen to Shador talking about the game-tying touchdown that eventually led to victory. Let's play shot number 2.
We was getting a lot of pressure, so I was like, okay, cool, we're going to roll right here. So let's go ahead and roll. We put Travis backside. He going to get all the attention. Then LaJohntay just going to be there outside, one-on-one. They not going to think we're going to throw him the ball because he's like a shorter guy probably in that situation. So then I rolled left. Everybody went in the middle of the end zone, and I just trusted God. I just threw it up to God, and God answered the prayer for sure.
We got lucky. We're not really improved. We could barely beat Baylor, and Baylor had to do something really incredibly stupid for us to win the game. That's what he's saying. And everybody's, oh, Deion, what an incredible program. What a turnaround. He's the face of college football. This is deja vu. This is exactly what we saw last year. Do you remember when they beat Colorado State to get to their 3-0 start? They got lucky. Jay Norville and Colorado State folded last year with idiotic play calling. Last year. It's the exact same thing all over again. Will they finish 4-8 this year? I don't know. Is it a possibility? Yes, it is, based on their offensive line play. They have no right tackle. None. They might as well have me out there at 57. No right tackle. Their guards are just okay. And their freshman left tackle, 2 holding calls and a third penalty, I can't remember, he's struggling. And that's the All-American 5-star kid that they thought would fix everything. It's all a struggle on the offensive line, and Deion and these guys are committed to throwing the ball. It looked like balance on Saturday. I think they ran the ball 42 times on the stat sheet, but 19 of those were Shedeur, and a lot of that was him scrambling and or getting sacked. They weren't true runs. They did switch up some formation stuff and gave him some different looks. Hats off to them for diversifying their offense. But at the end of the day, this was about an idiot head coach at Baylor lining up in the wrong defense. And then after the game, what's the guy's name? Dave Aranda, the head coach at Baylor. After the game, he throws a kid on the team way under the bus. Rather than taking responsibility for calling the wrong defense, he talked about a kid blowing an assignment. They rushed 5 people. And he's mad at one of the rushers for not keeping contained. He pointed the finger at the kid rather than taking responsibility for himself. It's one of the worst coaching performances in game and after game that I've ever seen. Let's play shot number 4. I think this is the Baylor coach talking about the scheme.
Yeah, we have, it's called Victory Cigar. It's supposed to be that. And, we have to the quarterback's hand, we'll have an up and under rush. So there'll be a contain rush on the outside, and then there'll be someone that will work up and then come under. And so generally you get sprint outs to the quarterback's hand. And so you would work an up and under rush to try to flush them to someone that's outside of them for contain. And then away from the quarterback's hand, you have a contain rush. And so, we had an injury earlier in the game, and so we had a backup in that spot, in one of those spots. And, we wanted to see what their formation was. And so we called timeout prior to that play. And then we have the drawings of that play. And so during the timeout, we were showing the drawings. And we went to opposite sides. The guy that was up and under went away, and the guy that was contained went to the other side. And so I think when you watch that play, you'll watch someone come from the right and just go up and under. Well, that's a shame because he's contained.
He's calling the kid out. I went and rewatched the play. They rushed 5 people. And there is a kid coming off the edge who comes underneath. You can see him clear as day, comes underneath rather than keeping contained. And what they wanted to do was flush Shedeur out of the pocket. This kid would have contained, and they would be flushing him right into this guy. And it makes the assumption that guy would either make the tackle or harass Shedeur to the point that he couldn't throw an accurate pass. But that's an assumption. Shedeur could have shook that dude and still thrown the pass. That's why you rush 3, and you basically put 8 people at the 10-yard line and the back of the end zone. Maybe 7-yard line in the back of the end zone. You flood that area with 8 defenders, and you knock down any pass. It's the coach screwed this up. Everybody knows it. Colorado should be 2-2. But look, I'm going to let you guys have your fun. I'm going to let everybody celebrate. And, it's great. They beat Baylor, and it was so exciting, and they rushed the field. And, Deion's so exciting. And Deion's just fun. Just admit it, he's just fun. Quit being a wet blanket. Football's all about fun, fun, fun. No. Deion's a clown. His team hasn't really improved. I don't see him winning more than 5 or 6 games this year. Could go 4-8 again. Vegas agrees with me. They're 2 touchdown underdogs to Central Florida. Now, I didn't say they're 2 touchdown underdogs to Michigan, to Texas, to Alabama, to Georgia, to Ohio State, Central Florida. 2 touchdown underdogs. But he's turned the whole thing around, and we need to be celebrating Deion. No, we don't. Here's my last point. I'm going to move on from Deion. I'm not going to beat him up too bad. But Deion, this is what Deion obsesses about. The kids from Colorado rushed the field, the fans did. And I don't have a problem with it. Some people have it's just Baylor, why are you rushing the field? Nah, if you watch the game, it was a really exciting game, and they pulled a rabbit out of the hat. I don't blame the kids at Colorado being excited. They snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. You rush the field. I got no problem with it. I don't have a problem with Deion not shaking the Baylor coach's hand after the game because the field was rushed. But Deion took it upon himself to explain why he didn't shake hands. Play the clip.
I want to apologize to the opposition, the way we stormed the field, and I didn't get an opportunity to go and shake the head coach's hand, but I did try to go over to the locker room and wait it out until he came out, but I don't think they got the word to him because that's not professional. I wanted to shake his hand and acknowledge, but I don't like what transpired at the end of the game, but I love what transpired at the end of the game.
So this is my problem, what I find interesting about that. Deion last week is all upset because people called out Shedeur for not shaking the hand of the Colorado State quarterback after the game. The kid walked up, tried to shake his hand. Shedeur snapped on the guy and acted like the guy, had called him every name in the book. The other kid had done nothing. Deion got upset because me and others in the media are like, hey, man, this is classless. This is a problem with Shedeur. He's not a leader. The week before, he walked off the field with 2 minutes on the clock. Now this week, he's not willing to shake hands afterwards. And so Deion snaps and goes off on the media and, wants to complain about me and others that are questioning Shedeur's character and who are saying, like, Shedeur's a reflection of Deion. Deion has no class, so his son has no class. And so here's Deion circling back. And last week, he's all upset. How dare someone criticize my son? If it wasn't my son, it wouldn't happen, blah, 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 blah. Now Deion circles back next week and says, yeah, it's professional. It's unprofessional not to shake hands with the opposition after the game. Now he realizes after, let's say a 15-year or 14-year NFL career, 3 or 4 years in college, 3 or 4 years in high school, Deion just figured out it's common courtesy and good sportsmanship to shake the opposition's hand after the game. And he had to tell everybody that. And I'm upset with the kids for storming the field. It stopped me from doing the common courtesy that my son didn't know to do just last week. Apples don't fall far from trees. The foundational pieces aren't in place for Colorado to build something sustainable. They're just not. They're led by someone who has no foundational pieces. He was just supremely talented. That's why he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. That's why he's one of the most entertaining athletes of all time. That's why he was so productive as a football player, baseball player, because he was so supremely talented. But he has no foundation. And that's why I don't buy that Colorado has done anything remarkable or sustainable or even legitimate. Their head coach, their leader, has no foundation. Finally, I want to play RG3. He's another one of these worshipers that celebrates everything Deion does. And it's like, oh, Deion's the great, putting out all these videos. It's like he might be on that well-off media payroll for all of what RG3 is doing. But these supremely talented people, RG3 is another one. They've never had to worry about the details. And this is why supremely talented people don't make good coaches. Because it's the people without talent that have to worry about the details and have to do the little things and have to embrace a mentality that creates success. And so now that we have supremely talented people coaching, and then we have supremely talented people analyzing the games, we're filled with misinformation, bad information, and advice and celebration of things that aren't healthy or sustainable. Here's RG3.
Coach Prime has turned one of the worst Power 5 schools in the country into one of the most watched. However, his biggest accomplishment isn't making the Colorado Buffaloes relevant again. His biggest accomplishment is empowering the young men in his program to believe in themselves, trust God, and rejuvenating an entire city in the face of massive pushback against his style. You see, that belief he instills in them helps them rise to the occasion when the moment calls. It's how Deion Sanders was able to take 2 HBCU football players and help coach them to become two of the best players in the country, and both of them are in the Heisman race. Coach Prime has taken multiple HBCU football players and turned them into quality Power 5 starters who have an NFL future. But even on a deeper level, watching Coach Prime coach and work with his sons has been inspirational. What Deion and LeBron have done for their families and their sons should be celebrated. As fathers, they aren't just there, they're active. They don't just have the title of baby daddy. They are fathers. Black fatherhood has long been mischaracterized as absent and negative. It's amazing to see black fatherhood today characterized as present and supportive. Peace.
That all sounds so good over social media, but it's all hot garbage. All hot garbage. What LeBron's doing for Bronny, providing him privilege and a shortcut to the NBA, it's a joke. That's not being a good father. That's being a narcissist. That's being selfish. That's being exploitive of your own privilege. And Deion passing on his values to his sons. It's a mistake. Great job passing on his physical talents. But Deion passing on his inappropriate values to his son, it's a mistake. That's why one son beat up a security guard in high school and has been ducking paying the $13 million settlement, and the other son walks off the field before games, won't shake hands after the games, is a bit of a goofball, oddball, because Deion has not trained them up well, because Deion has focused more on their athletic ability rather than promoting values that work when their athletic abilities disappear. All right, we're going to bring in Steve Kim, expand the conversation beyond Deion to the NFL. The NFL's very, very, very fascinating 3 weeks in. You know, Colin Cowherd put out something about lowering our expectations and how we evaluate the NFL. Steve Kim's been on that theme quite a bit. The Dallas Cowboys, 1-2 to start. They're paying Dak Prescott $60 million a year. It makes no sense. Jerry Jones is experiencing deja vu all over again. How many times is he going to pay Dak and be satisfied with these bad results? Jerry Jones had an opportunity to sign Derrick Henry. Instead, hey, let's bring Zeke Elliott back. Zeke's been washed for 3 or 4 years. Derrick Henry just put 151 yards on the Cowboys. Zeke Elliott's washed. Deja vu. That's the theme of today's Fearless Football Monday. Before we get to Steve Kim, I want to talk to you guys that are looking for alternative currency. Boy, do I have something great for you, Alpine Gold. For the first time in human history, you can spend physical gold on small transactions, such as a smoothie, while using the same type of money for large transactions, such as a home renovation like me. You can do this thanks to Alpine Gold. It's a precious metal IRA. Alpine Gold offers gold leases that pay you in gold. Everyone is eligible to start with returns of up to 3.5% average per year. The Goldback is the world's first physical, interchangeable gold money that is designed to accommodate even small transactions. Goldbacks do not need someone else's approval to spend, do not specify where they can be spent or what they can be spent on, and the Goldbacks are anonymous. To learn more about Goldbacks and Alpine Gold, visit alpinegold.com. alpinegold.com and use the promo code FEARLESS to receive free shipping on orders over $200. That's alpinegold.com and the promo code FEARLESS. Steve Kim and your boy Butter. Next. Don't miss a second of Fearless. We'll be right back, but check out this clip from an earlier show.
You couldn't ignore Caitlin Clark. You could not do it. It's not just ESPN. You were on this well before ESPN was. You were sitting here talking about it.
I wasn't. No.
Jace.
No. ESPN was on Caitlin Clark before me. TJ, I can go play you the clips from this show where I complained during her sophomore year or start of her junior year. Why is ESPN leading SportsCenter with some basketball player from Iowa? What are they doing? This is crazy. On this show, I ripped ESPN.
You don't think Shohei Ohtani?
Caitlin Clark.
Shohei Ohtani's on SportsCenter. They lead with him, and I'm saying that people didn't pick it up.
I'm saying there was a concerted effort by ESPN to make Caitlin Clark a star. They got her on my radar, and then I started looking, and boom. And I'm saying that Shohei Ohtani, I agree, baseball's boring. But I'm watching women miss breakaway layups. No one around. I'm watching them miss it, and I'm enjoying it because of Caitlin Clark. She's that, and Shohei Ohtani is the Caitlin Clark of sports.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for some Steve Kim. Steve, welcome back to the program. I'm sorry I'm taking care. No Cosell jacket today? I thought Monday Night Football, Mondays, no Cosell jacket? What happened?
Well, I got this. See, here's the thing. It's one or the other. The jacket will make an appearance by the end of the week. It's a once-a-week thing, but it cannot cover this. Come on, Jason. Good grief. That's what I do. The plan.
Colorado, 14-point underdogs to Central Florida. Is Vegas right?
Well, it looks like they were wrong in the beginning, as you pointed out, Mr. Whitlock. That line originally was at about 10.5. Look, I've always said, we're not the experts. Maybe the coaches aren't really the experts. The gamblers and the sharps are the experts. That is now 2 touchdowns in favor of UCF. And Jason, I will give Colorado the victory, the credit for the victory over Baylor. They found a way, but that was one of those games that I said a couple weeks ago. There's 2 wins that they had to have on this schedule. Colorado State was a must-win game because that got them to 3 or 2-1. But I thought the game against Baylor and Cincinnati were the 2 games where I said, you know what, they might be the favorite here. Maybe Texas Tech, but that's also a road game. Keep this in mind, Jason. Not only does UCF have a high-powered offense led by Gus Malzahn, and they have I would say the discount version of Cam Newton and KJ Jefferson. They are facing the most explosive running back that they have on the schedule thus far, RJ Harvey, and probably the most dangerous wide receiver that they have faced so far in Kobe the Black Mamba Hudson. And not only is it a road game, Jason, keep this in mind because I think it matters. The Knights are coming off a bye week. So just look at the dynamics at play here. Colorado, miracle victory. They expend a lot of energy, acting like they won the Super Bowl and the Power Lotto. UCF, waiting, rested. Now you have to go to the bounce house. If Colorado wins this game, I will tip my lid to Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes.
So it sounds like UCF has a lot on offense. Do they have the athletes on defense to cause the because that's what I didn't think Baylor had great players. I thought they had great athletes on defense, and that's enough to cause Colorado major problems. If you can cover those guys in any capacity on the back end and get any sort of pressure, you can give Colorado problems.
You're right, but I expect this game to be very high scoring. And when I look back at the UCF comeback against TCU, which is a very good offense, okay, they got blown out this week by SMU. They kind of imploded, but they have a high-level quarterback in Josh Hoover and Savion Williams outside. I mean, that's a good offense. And they were able to somehow hold them to 34. Now, Jason, that doesn't seem like great defense, but when you're on the road and you're not a great defense, and you have an offense that can consistently come at you. Now, I do think that in the beginning, Gus Malzahn will try to grind out some longer drives, keep the Colorado offense off the field, wear them down. But I'm just telling you, there's the emotion of the game that we talk about. I really wonder, and you showed the footage, these Colorado fans and the players have to be a little bit exhausted emotionally. And we keep talking about this. Every game the Buffaloes play on the road, that becomes one of the biggest home games for anybody else that has Colorado on that schedule. And Jason, I'm going to come clean. I'm going to be in Miami, Florida. Miami plays on Friday night. All of Saturday, I'll be at my friend's house watching games. 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. One of those TVs will be on Fox for Colorado against UCF. Let's just come clean about it. They are really compelling television.
You know what's interesting about the points you just made about Colorado and Deion on the road? It's not the same. Like when Caitlin Clark goes on the road, a bunch of Caitlin Clark fans show up and fill up that arena. When Deion and Colorado show up on the road,
it's venom.
They're not bringing a bunch of Colorado fans. Yeah, it's enemies they're bringing out, and people are like, let me go watch Deion and get his brains beat in. Let's go humble Deion. And so, it's going to be a packed house. UCF has this game circled. They know there's going to be a big television audience, and those kids will be fired up to embarrass Deion and Colorado and all of that swagger and the whole rap thing they got going on. Man, I can't wait till 12:30 Saturday.
Jason,
we'll just end it there. I want to get to the go ahead.
Yeah. Jason, you don't think a guy like KJ Jefferson, who had a pretty decent run in Arkansas, and now he's at UCF, so he goes from the SEC to a lower level of football, but still has pro aspirations. He's a big guy. He's like 6'5", 250, and he can move a little bit, and he does a decent job of throwing. You don't think a guy like him looks at that one game and saying, that's the most watched I'm going to be, maybe in my whole career? You don't think he wants to make a point as the opposite to Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, you're right. Oh, my God. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, there's so many elements to this that every UCF player knows, you know what, we may not be in another game this year unless we somehow make the playoffs and win the Big 12, that it's going to be the game of the week. Because think about it, Alabama, Georgia, Jason, do not play to the late window. And I will say this about Colorado. They are like the Real Housewives of Boulder. They're the most compelling reality television in college football. When they play, I watch, at least in September.
Boy, you just made me. No, I've got the wrong year. Hold for 1 second. You just reminded me, thinking about this atmosphere that they're about to play and thinking about the quarterback trying, hey, look, they're saying this guy's a top 5 pick, and I get to go out here and prove that I'm the real top 5 pick. Man, I'm sitting here. Ball State, years and years ago, Purdue came to Ball State. And I can't remember who their big man was. Maybe it was Steve Scheffler and a few other players that were halfway decent. Woody Austin, I think, was on that team. Matt Painter was on. They came to Ball State, and our guys, we had a good team that year. Rick, we had Curtis Kidd. Anyway, the crowd was electric. We put them over the top, and we clean Purdue's clock. That's what I'm hoping happens at 12:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody knows I'm biased. Yeah, everybody.
No.
Hey, Steve, I want to move. I want to move on to some NFL conversation. I want to start by bringing the Cowboys into this conversation because they, for the most part, got their clocks cleaned by the Baltimore Ravens, and then they had a comeback at the end and made the game look close. But Derrick Henry ran for 151 yards and just really, really put it on the Cowboys. And Cowboys 1-2. There's two other teams that are 1-2. Baltimore is now 1-2. San Francisco's 1-2. The Cowboys are 1-2. Of that group of teams, who's most likely to rebound?
The Ravens, by far. And I think they found something, Jason. Did you notice yesterday, and I wrote this down, Lamar Jackson only had 15 passing attempts, and they ran the ball 45 times. And beyond that, Jason, I saw something. They went under center, old school football, handed the ball off, old school ISO power north-south running from the Derrick Henry. That's his game. He is not what I would call a shotgun pistol running back. He's not meant to make jump cuts and do all that. He can do it. That's not his strength. But now when you start to do that, Jason, now you start setting up the waggle and the bootleg action for Lamar Jackson. I actually believe in the long term, this will rest the defense. It'll make Derrick Henry a better player, and you're actually going to ask less of Lamar Jackson physically. I liked what I saw. I know they should have really
Steve, we're going to have to reconnect. But I like where Steve is going in terms of and where Baltimore has gone. Things got real. They get off to an 0-2 start. And all of a sudden, they have to say, all right, who are we? How can we guarantee winning this game? Okay, we got rid of Greg Roman. We're going to turn Lamar Jackson into this great passer with Todd Monken. And all of a sudden, things got real. We're 0-2. We have to save our season. Hey, we're not going to turn Lamar into this great passer. We're going to line up and shove this football down Dallas's throat and save our season. I know it's a 17-game season, but an 0-3 start could be devastating and detrimental. It could ruin the whole deal. And so they had to admit who they really are. And who they really are is a running team. And Lamar Jackson's a running quarterback. And so let's quit. And, now Lamar, now that he's got his money, he's agreeing to, hey, I don't need to prove that I'm some passing quarterback. Run me and let's run the ball until the wheels fall off. I got my money. I'm comfortable. And this whole thing of running off Greg Roman, bringing in Todd Monken, and trying to turn Lamar into this passing quarterback, that was all about Lamar getting paid. Now that he's been paid, he's going to die on his sword running the football over and over and over again. And I do think that Baltimore will be more effective that way. Lamar, compared to Dak Prescott, obviously, Dak throws a better ball, but Lamar's a better quarterback. Brock Purdy, Lamar's a better quarterback than him. And so I'm right there with Steve in terms of Baltimore is the team that can recover from this. Is Steve back with us? Steve is back with us. Steve.
Yeah.
What do you think of Derrick Henry putting that 151 on the Cowboys? Derrick Henry wanted to play in Dallas.
Yeah.
They chose to go with retread Zeke Elliott, and it's blown up in the Cowboys' face.
Well, a couple of things. I guess Herschel Walker or Tony Dorsett were not available. Here's the thing. There's been clear evidence that Zeke was one time an elite premier running back, is at least 2, if not 3 years beyond his peak. And I think he's meant to be a short yardage spot player. If you ask him to do anything more than that, his effectiveness wanes. And as it relates to Derrick Henry, don't call it a comeback. I mean, as long as you hand him the ball where he can line up 7 yards directly on the quarterback and basically be a north-south runner, and you ask him to make one cut and come downhill, he showed yesterday there's still a lot of gas left in that tank. Jason, this is a point that was made by Bill Belichick on recent shows. Teams that are now willing to run the ball physically from underneath center with tight ends, and if there's even such thing as a fullback, you know what the newest trend might be down the line? Teams doing that more because defenses do not practice for it. And the games that I saw this week in the NFL where teams were playing old school 1978 football, these defenses could not run fit properly. I'm just telling you, they look misaligned. They were not setting the edge. There were wide gashes. And I'm watching this going, you know what? If you want to improve quarterback play and overall offense in general, because yesterday's offense, I think, is even worse than I saw the first 2 weeks, we may have to go back to that for a while.
We're going to get to that. Alex Smith made some interesting comments about quarterback play and what's been going on. Before we get there, Butter, you're somewhat of a Tennessee Titans fan, and I know Derrick Henry very popular here in Nashville. I thought it was a mistake for the Titans to move on from him. I think the guy had 1,300 yards and 12 TDs last year. Were you disappointed to see them move on from Derrick Henry?
Absolutely. I think that he was sort of the face of their offense. It was what you came to understand about the
entire
Titans.
franchise.
Yeah. But, you know, when you look at where the Titans are today and how much they miss him, I'm kind of glad that for him and what he did for the franchise and all of his hard work, they probably weren't going to be a real contending team here in the early Levis years. For him to be able to go to Baltimore and be with, you know, that offense, I think it's worked out. So I think most Tennessee fans, although they didn't want to see him leave, they're happy to see where he's at right now.
Steve, final thought on this, on the running back situation. The whole league has told us for the last, 7-10 years, running backs have less and less value. Running backs aren't as valuable as they used to be. You dust them after just a handful of years. And teams with a 100-plus yard rusher this year are 18-3. Are we seeing the return of the running back position?
I think schematically we are, but there still might be a belief with all the analytical GMs that, hey, we could always find a good running back in the 4th or 5th round, and why do we need to give them a second contract? I mean, that's the reality, and I think it's completely unfair. But to Butter's point, just real quickly, I don't think it's fair to have Derrick Henry play with Will Levis. Okay, because that's a bigger mistake, sticking with him than getting rid of Derrick Henry. He deserves better. Let the guy win a little bit at the end of his career. But, Jason, we're seeing how valuable the running game is in general. Okay, we can talk all we want about Derrick Henry. He's going to the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. Let's go back to Thursday night, Jason. Breece Hall should be the foundation of that Jets offense. And all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers, he's not so washed up anymore. And what did they do, Jason? I actually saw the Jets, 3 of their first 4 plays, and consistently throughout the game, they went right under center, old school football, and they ran the ball downhill. And what did that set up? Play action. It also set up rollouts. And suddenly, Aaron Rodgers looks like, you know what? The Jets might have something here. But the running game does so much, Jason. It sets the tone physically, and if you can run the ball effectively, it keeps your defense off the field. And if you talk to defensive players, they will tell you the most efficient way to create big plays, and from a defensive standpoint, the toughest way to actually prevent them is the play action. If you can run the ball and you can do play action, it just heightens everything by at least 25, 30%.
You know, I've been doing all this complaining, and I may have to reevaluate in terms of, because I've always been someone that's like, hey, man, I fell in love with football because of the running backs.
Yeah.
You know, tuning in to see O.J. Simpson, Eric Dickerson, Walter Payton, Tony Dorsett, all these, Earl Campbell. I mean, I used to love watching Earl Campbell, Love You Blue, the whole deal. And they turned it all into a quarterback league. and now that it's kind of swinging back, I may actually enjoy the physicality in returning the football and the running back returning the football. And we may be at an inflection point because, again, you can't practice these sophisticated passing games, and it may be easier and more efficient to just hand that ball off to a great running back, 4 yards in a cloud of dust.
Jason, I don't even think the issue is that it's become a quarterback league. I think the bigger problem is become a 7-on-7 culture, which is now seeped into the highest levels of football. And by the way, Jason, one of the best ways to deal with this dreaded cover 2, this incredible virus that's caused a pandemic of a lack of offense? Running the ball. There's a phrase that goes on every sideline. I've heard Michael Irvin say it. Run them out of the cover 2. It's another way of saying bring those safeties up, and now we can run play action. So, look, nothing ever old is new, and nothing ever new is truly old. What I'm just telling you, Jason, look for this the next week or two. Teams that go under center and start handing the ball off, they have a real advantage because those defenses, they do not practice anymore as much. They don't hit as much anymore, and teams are not defending certain types of runs the way they did maybe 30, 40 years ago.
Did you, and people are going to get irritated with me here, but I'm sorry. My Ball State bias is about to come out, but I'm telling you, I've watched this kid since high school. I knew he would be an NFL player and an NFL running back. Did you watch Sunday Night Football last night? And the Chiefs lose Pacheco, and they gave the ball to my guy, Carson Steele, I believe 17 times. And the guy carried the load, man. And he's a power runner. I'm having this epiphany in real time. It's like, I love the direction the NFL is going, perhaps out of necessity. Maybe they've fallen into it. But if we return to the running backs, again, it's going to make paying Dak Prescott $60 million a year. It's just insanity. Paying any of these guys that much money, and then we're paying running backs $3 or $4 million and telling everybody they're no good and you can't win with them, and they only got a 3-year life expectancy. Anyway, my guy Carson Steele, he's not going away. I'm just pray that he holds onto the football and doesn't fumble. That kid is going to be a major player. I want to switch up, Steve, and talk about 3-3-0 teams. And which one do you think is the most legit? The Minnesota Vikings, the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Seattle Seahawks? And all three are playing with retread quarterbacks: Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, and Geno Smith.
I believe the team that has the most staying power and will be in the playoffs and can sustain this the best, the Minnesota Vikings. I'll make a prediction right now, and I know I'm a little bit late behind Coach JB. Sam Darnold with Coach O'Connell is going to have a renaissance year, and he'll get a big free agent contract because he's not the quarterback of the future. That's J.J. McCarthy. But he finally is in a system and has some parts around him, like Jefferson, where you could see now he's playing with an increased confidence. He is no longer seeing ghosts, as he once famously said. He's in a good offensive system. And, Jason, this will blow you away. With the job he's doing on his side of the ball, Brian Flores will be a head coaching candidate once again. Yeah, I said it.
Brian Flores as a head coaching candidate won't surprise me. You know, everybody gets their second chance, and he handled Tua's criticism well. That won't surprise me, but I disagree with you about Minnesota. And it's not because I think they're a bad team or I think Sam Darnold's going to fall off. Man, Pittsburgh's defense is just, they're for real, for real. They are for real, for real. They gave San Diego, or the Los Angeles Chargers drafted John Alt, or is it John Alt? It's John Alt's son. I know that. I watched Joe Alt. Yeah. Yeah. John Alt was the offensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs when I was there. Great player. Now this is his son, Joe. And they gave him major problems. TJ Watt gives everybody problems. But this entire Pittsburgh defense is for real, for real. Pittsburgh, to me, has two quarterbacks. I know we haven't seen Russell Wilson, but if Justin Fields slips or whatever, they can return to Russell Wilson. I think Pittsburgh is the legit team. I think, the Bengals are struggling. I think Pittsburgh's defense is built to defend Derrick Henry in Baltimore. Pittsburgh's off to a 3-0 start. Baltimore's off to a 1-2 start. I think Pittsburgh is a legitimate problem. I think Minnesota's good and interesting. I need to continue to monitor them. It's hard for me to believe that Seattle with Geno Smith can be the real deal. But it's what's really fascinating, though, is all three of these retread quarterbacks, Geno, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold, having this kind of success. And so I want to play you a clip from Alex Smith. Said something I thought very interesting on ESPN yesterday about Bryce Young and these expectations we have for rookie quarterbacks. Let's play SOT number 8.
And listen, we're going to get into it. There's a lot to say about this, but this organization, man, has really failed him.
Yes, they have.
I mean, 5 head coaches in 4 years, Greeny. I mean, he's had 3 head coaches in 18 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, who is he playing with out there? This has been hot garbage, to steal Rex's, adjectives. Once you decided, I know they're going to Andy Dalton right now. They should have done this from day one last year and let him sit and learn and make sure that when he does play, that there's stability around him. Once they made the decision to play him, right, like this, and this is the Peyton Manning model, right, of the number 1 pick. Let's play you through the dysfunction, right? Peyton Manning goes out and throws 28 interceptions his rookie year, one of the worst rookie seasons of all time, and still comes out of it to be the Hall of Fame quarterback that he is. He is an anomaly. Peyton is such a unique person. That is not the case most often. You can go out there and you can develop bad habits. You can lose your confidence, and it's shown up in Bryce's play. Like, I felt like I lived this, and again, so it's such a hard time watching it.
Steve, I think he's making a legitimate point in terms of, hey, there was an era in football where you expected, it'll be 2 years before he plays, 3 years. And it worked for Aaron Rodgers. Patrick Mahomes set for a year. It worked for him. We all thought the Atlanta Falcons were crazy for drafting Michael Penix after signing Kirk Cousins. Maybe they weren't crazy. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Should teams return to a mentality of, hey, we're not drafting this rookie quarterback to throw him into the fire instantly. We're going to put him out there at an appropriate time. Is Alex Smith right?
He is right, and he has a point because he went through it. And what I do remember most about Alex Smith, his first 5-6 years pre-Harbaugh, every year he seemed to have a new coordinator. So that put him behind the 8 ball. But Jason, this kid gloves treatment of Bryce Young, it's getting a little nauseating. Maybe there's just a chance he doesn't have it. Maybe he's not that guy. I mean, let's go back to Peyton Manning in 1998. Everyone talks about the 28 interceptions. It's ingrained in everyone's mind, right? Jason, I remember that year, and I looked it up last night. He also still had 26 touchdowns. 26. So he also threw for over 3,700 yards in a 16-game season. Troy Aikman in 1989 got beaten up and ragdolled. Missed time. Wasn't even the quarterback for that one win. But he still had moments where you said, oh, he's got it. Like he showed you something. And by the way, there's a guy in Houston that Carolina could have had by the name of C.J. Stroud. Took a beating yesterday, but I love his future. He had a pretty good rookie year. I think the bigger issue with Bryce Young is he showed no signs. He showed no indication. And now there's almost like this media mantra, oh, nothing's Bryce's fault. It's the organization. It's this guy. They're blaming Cover 2 for this. It's ridiculous. I mean, maybe there's just a chance, Jason. He ain't the guy. He ain't the guy. That's all I'm saying.
There is that chance, but I agree with Alex Smith, and this isn't me caping up for Bryce Young. I do think there's extra layers to this that maybe they got into it in that discussion on ESPN. But look, man, Peyton Manning that struggled early, and there was another quarterback you mentioned. That wasn't in the social media era. And these kids, these young people, they're addicted to social media. And it does have an impact on their mentality, their anxiety. When you're sitting there like, it was one thing that, hey, I don't read the newspapers. And some athletes legitimately didn't read the newspapers, and they'd block it out, or it's just one guy, it's Whitlock at the Kansas City Star, but it's hard to avoid, particularly with everybody having a smartphone, it's hard to avoid everything that's being said over social media, all the memes. Putting a 22-year-old through that mentally can destroy him. Go ahead.
Jason, this is what I was told from Monday on till yesterday. And me and you, I think we talked about it. All I heard was Roger Staubach, Y.A. Tittle, Otto Graham, Terry Bradshaw, Dan Marino could not win with the Panthers organization. There's no quarterback in the history of the world that could possibly succeed this poor victim. Okay, so think about this. They went from Bryce Young to Andy the Old. Now, I didn't check the waiver wire, but did Deshaun Foster walk through that door? Did Steve Smith suddenly walk through that door? Did Greg Olson suddenly say, you know what, I'm sick of being the number 2 Fox guy. I got a few more snaps in me. Did Muhsin Muhammad go into the hot tub time machine? Because all of a sudden, I happened to watch some of this Raider game because I'm in the LA market. All of a sudden, Deontay Johnson looked like a serviceable receiver. Xavier Legette showed some signs. Another old guy, Adam Thielen, played a factor, made a great catch, blew out his hamstring. Chuba Hubbard suddenly had running lanes. Why? Because Andy Dalton just did all the things that Coach JB talks about. Understanding protection, understanding timing that you don't have all day. That you have to play within the scheme, okay, that I have to step up into the pocket instead of drifting back. He just did regular fundamental things. And guess what, Jason? They played the Raiders. Same Raiders that beat the Ravens. I am under no delusions. The Panthers are still a bad football team. But for the first time this year, they actually look like a functional NFL offense. Why? Why?
Well, here's what you may be missing. Now, Butter, I want you to chime in because you're raising 2 boys. Not everybody learns the same way. And so Bryce Young, comparing him to someone that learns by doing versus someone who learns by seeing someone else doing and get an upfront look at that. And some people are slow learners. I feel like I am. I'm a slow thinker. I need time. Blah, blah, but give me time and I'll figure it out. That's what I think Alex Smith is saying is, hey, we're comparing everyone to Peyton Manning, whose dad was an NFL quarterback, who's a bit of a nut job as it relates to preparation, whereas other people need to sit back, see others do it, then they're in position to learn. But am I right? You know, you're a father. Tug and Hutch, they maybe not learn everything the same way. They're unique, I would imagine.
Yeah, they're both definitely different. And what's weird in my house is my kids and my wife at the dinner table, they spell words together, so I don't know what's going on. That's how smart they are. You know what I'm saying? They do learn differently. I think it's always a situation. Can I make a point here?
Please.
Can I take just 1 minute? Because I haven't tempted the butter box in a minute.
No, you haven't.
You got this new beautiful backdrop. I want to say something.
This whole setup sounds very dangerous. Prepare the butter box. Go ahead.
Steve Kemp, be ready for this. This conversation to me this is what the conversation that Blockbuster was having in 2010, right before they went bankrupt. The franchise quarterback is the VHS tape. Netflix is the new modern era of the NFL that's coming. We keep trying to, whether somebody learns by watching or how quickly they come in, doesn't matter anymore. To me, the problem is we put too much focus on the word franchise quarterback. That is something that should be earned, not labeled. And the VHS tape went away. The word franchise quarterback is going to go away. If you want to be Blockbuster and keep trying to draft your franchise quarterback in that process and not reassess how the offensive systems in the NFL can work by decreasing the importance of that one person running your offense, that is what Netflix did, and that's what we have going on here today. It's a transformation of the industry.
That's your best work, Butter. That was good. No butter box. You may have put me in the butter box because I got nothing to say. Steve?
To that I say,
gotta marinate on
be
that.
kind, please, rewind. But Butter, I will just counter this with this particular statement. There may not be a lot of franchise quarterbacks by the pure definition of it, but as you're seeing in Tennessee, you can't win with the Will Levises of the world. Again, you may not win with a good quarterback. You absolutely have no shot with the bad one, though. As watered down and as diluted as quarterback and offensive play is today, try to win with a bad quarterback, though. I don't think it can be done consistently. And Jason, one last note on Bryce Young. I'm not ready to write him off because anything can happen. I hope he proves me wrong. But this may not change, and I don't think it will, given his age. When I see him physically and athletically, he is a slightly bigger version of Kyler Murray with a lot less athleticism. That'll never change. And Caleb Williams is going through it right now. These grown men in the National Football League, they are bigger athletes, they're angrier athletes, and they're a lot faster. And that speed of the game, that internal clock, until they fix that, they have no shot.
There was something I wanted to get to about what Cowherd said. I'm going to save it for tomorrow. Steve, I want to end with this question. I had a gut feeling all last week. Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay, they're overvalued. Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay, they're overvalued. I'm just not. I just think they're overvalued. I think we're making too much of this. And this week, and I thought that, but I hate to admit this. When I talked to my bookie, I didn't back up my beliefs. I actually bet on Baker and the Buccaneers, and I'm so furious with myself. But Derek Carr, I did believe in. And he crashed out yesterday, and the Saints crashed out. Who is most likely to bounce back here for the rest of the season, Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield?
Well, a couple things about Derek Carr. His offensive line was banged up. They had an injury or two. It shuffled the whole line, and they got dominated up front. Let me just say something. I think both quarterbacks are going to be fine. Jason, I think you're not giving Baker Mayfield enough credit. And I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback. This is a guy who has won playoff games with the Cleveland Browns and the Buccaneers. And I thought last year he had a pretty doggone good year, and he has steadied his run, that he has found a home. I think there's some continuity. I hope he stays there for the rest of his career. They had one bad week. It started off bad, and Bo Nix actually ran around, made some plays. It happens. But how many quarterbacks can come into a situation that's as bad as Cleveland? You don't think Cleveland right now would want to trade Baker Mayfield for what they have in Deshaun Watson? So, again, there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there that have won playoff games with multiple franchises. Jason, Baker Mayfield is not a bust. He's actually developed, I would say, into a pretty good, solid National Football League starter.
I'm not calling him a bust. I'm just saying, like, people were like, oh, he's the guy, and thank God Tampa Bay paid him, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just not there yet. And it's just, I'm not anti-Baker. I just don't like small quarterbacks, and it's hard for me to ever get fully comfortable with a short quarterback. But go ahead.
But they're not paying him $60 million either. I mean, they paid him, but they didn't Dak pay him. I mean, that's a little different. I mean, again, all of these quarterbacks are going to make over $30 to $35 million as a starter. That seems to be the sticker price, right? But it seems to me that Mayfield is being compensated, not exorbitantly, but fairly by today's standard for a starting quarterback.
Possibly. Steve, I'm going to move on because I need to melt down about Caitlin Clark. I'm completely outraged. Look, audience, don't get upset with me. I just gave you 70 great minutes on football, and I know it's Monday, but you got to give me this. What happened to Caitlin Clark yesterday is an absolute tragedy and a crime, and I'm the only guy that can really talk about it in this kind of detail because I pay attention to all of it. but I'm going to melt down here in a second about Caitlin Clark was stabbed on national TV, and no one did anything about it. ESPN tried to. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to melt down. Joni Carrington needs to be suspended for game, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Give me a moment. Let me take care of one of our great new sponsors, and then when I come back, I'm going to bring fire to the rain. Is that what she says? Is that what Adele says? Set fire to the rain. Yeah, I'm going to set fire to the rain here in a second. But First Liberty is a coalition formed to stop the Supreme Court radical leftists are trying to provoke. Packing the court and politicizing the Supreme Court is President Joe Biden's final mission. We can stop it. It's important that we stop it. In many instances, the Supreme Court has been our last line of defense in protecting this country's founding principles. The court hasn't been perfect, but jurists like Clarence Thomas have stood firm on the original intent of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Those of us who love our country and respect our founders and the founding principles must unite to make sure that President Biden and the radical left don't succeed in packing the court and diminishing the influence of conservative judges who interpret the law through the eyes and wisdom of our founders. If you want to join this fight, please go to SupremeCourtCoop.com/Jason. That's SupremeCourtCoop, COUP.com/Jason to learn how you can help stop the radical left's takeover of the Supreme Court. When I come back, my hair will be on fire, and I'll be talking about Caitlin Clark. Next. Don't miss a second of Fearless. We'll be right back, but check out this clip from an earlier show. And so this is what I would tell Ryan Clark, because I don't know Ryan Clark and don't know his history as well as I know things about Michael Eric Dyson. But when I see people on TV having this kind of dishonest conversation and, oh, I'm Captain Save a Black Woman and I'm gonna speak, oh, black women this, black women that, I'm like, okay, what's your real agenda here? Because if everything's rock solid at home, you ain't got to get on TV and tell everybody how great black women are. Your wife knows it. Your mama knows it. Your daughters know it. So who are you really talking to? Who are you caping up for? Who do you want to see you as this great champion of black women? Someone like me, and I'm 57, I've lived a long time, I've seen a lot. It makes me go, maybe that ain't for her. That's where my mind goes. Because I've been a depraved, like, hey, what can I say to get in the panties person? I know what that looks like, what it sounds like. All right, welcome back to Fearless. Caitlin Clark was assaulted yesterday in her very first playoff game in the WNBA. We've seen the animus directed at Caitlin Clark all year. It reached a boiling point yesterday. Caitlin Clark played a terrible game, shot 4 of 17 from the field. The Indiana Fever got curb stomped by the Connecticut Sun. I get it. She had a bad game. Connecticut Sun looked good. They looked experienced. They brought a level of intensity and physicality that the Fever weren't ready for. But damn it, in the first 2 minutes of this game, this Dejanay Carrington stabbed Caitlin Clark with her fingernails right in the eye. There was no foul call. There was no real discussion of it on the ESPN broadcast. ESPN wrote a story after the game that did not mention that the biggest star in the history of the WNBA, the first woman to ever be the biggest star in American sports, was assaulted 2 minutes into the game on a dirty play with one of these women with these long fake fingernails that stabbed her in the eye. Do you think that had any impact on the game? Do you think that your meal ticket should be stabbed in the eye intentionally on the court 2 minutes into the game, and there's no problem here? It's not worthy of discussion? I read this ESPN story. Alyssa Thomas had a triple-double, and so scored X number of points, and the Connecticut Sun knock off the Fever. And I'm reading the story, I'm like, where's the mention of the fact that the Michael Jordan of the WNBA was assaulted, has a black eye during the second half of the game because Dejanay Carrington stabbed her with her fingernails in the eye? Play the, I believe it's, side 11. Could we just play this on a loop? So I'm not exaggerating. Caitlin Clark's trying to pass the ball in the first 2 minutes of the game, and this woman swats at the basketball and somehow decides to turn her hand down and her fingernails and jab them right into the eye of Caitlin Clark. No foul call. No refs stopping the game to go look. Is this a flagrant? None of that. Just everybody moved on. Your biggest star, your meal ticket, the reason why you have relevancy, just got stabbed and assaulted and nothing. And Dejanay has a history with Caitlin Clark, like many of these girls in the WNBA, but she's at the top of the list along with Kennedy Carter in Chicago and Angel Reese. Those three. But here's earlier in the season, Dejanay Carrington mocking Caitlin Clark on the court, played a very physical game with her back then too. And look, does Caitlin Clark do some histrionics, some flopping, and perhaps, I'm giving them this out on what happened yesterday. Perhaps if Caitlin Clark wasn't known as a flopper, the refs would have taken it more seriously when she got stabbed in the eye and fell to the court. Perhaps they were a tiny bit confused, like perhaps in preparation for the game, it's like she does some flopping, we don't know what to put. I'm going to give them that small out, but that's not what I believe. That this is inexcusable, and Dejanay Carrington needs to be suspended for game 2. You can't, that's not a natural act of you contest a shot and then all of a sudden your hand turns downwards and straight into the eye of the biggest star in the WNBA. It's not a natural act. And I called it out yesterday in real time watching the game. Like, hey, that was on purpose. That was not an accident. And part of me thought initially, like, that was on purpose. Is Caitlin Clark making too much of it? Is she exaggerating it, trying to get the call? You can think both things. You can think, hey, this is on purpose and it's a dirty play, but you could also think, is Caitlin Clark making too much of this? And then later in the game when they mentioned, like, hey, you can see the black eye on Caitlin Clark's face, I was like, oh, yeah, that was, it was intentional and it did real damage. And I'm not blaming it. She shot 4 of 17 from the field. I'm not blaming that on this. What I am upset about is like, hey, man, your meal ticket is under constant attack. There's been dirty plays all season. And again, I've admitted, some of them have been exaggerated. It's just typical rough play with girls. But there are some that it's just been dirty. And Dejanay is one of these people that has a real problem with Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark, this offseason, they have to dump Nylisa Smith. And I halfway like Nylisa. I don't think she plays properly. I think she looks for her shot too often. But Nylisa is like this 6'4" power forward that they have who should be their enforcer, who should be the Charles Oakley, the way Charles Oakley was for Michael Jordan. Nylisa Smith should be that for Caitlin Clark. But you know why she can't be? Because according to all reports, she's dating and or likes Dejanay Carrington. That's how twisted and screwed up this WNBA thing and this sexuality thing is they got going on in the WNBA. That Caitlin Clark's goon enforcer has feelings for the opposition's player, and lo and behold, this is how you know it's true. Nylisa Smith is a starter who played 9 minutes yesterday in a game where they needed her. It was a very physical game. Connecticut was playing very physical basketball, and they only played their most physical player 9 minutes. It's not because of foul trouble. It's not because of anything. It's because they know damn well that their most physical player has mixed emotions going into the game because Dejanay, her boo, is on the court. This is insanity. She's got to go sooner than later. When we heard Cheryl Swoops talking about, hey, there are people in Indiana that want out of there, she's talking about Nylisa Smith. Everybody else is happy. Aaliyah Boston gets the ball in her sweet spot on the court. Lexi Hull is bombing three-pointers. Kelsey Mitchell feeds off of Caitlin's passing. Everybody else is thrilled. Caitlin Clark makes the game easier for everybody else. Nylisa Smith can't hop on board. She's got to get out of there. They need a real enforcer. They need people that have Caitlin Clark's back. It's no different. Wayne Gretzky. He had a guy named Dave Zeminko. Took care of all of Wayne Gretzky's problems on the ice. Somebody wanted to get physical with Gretzky, Dave Zeminko took care of it. That's hockey. Let's stick to basketball. Isaiah Thomas, Mahorn and Lambier, they knew what their job was. Isaiah's our guy. He's our leader. He's our provider. He's our shot creator. They took care of Isaiah Thomas. They were the enforcers. They were the goons. Michael Jordan had Charles Oakley. And then others, as you have to take care. Someone tweeted at me that Caitlin Clark needs to fight back. Do you know what would happen if she fought back in a real way? She did. She slapped Carrington later in the game. It was clear as day. She pretended like, her arms are out of control, but she slapped Carrington. Caitlin Clark is not a punk, but she's also smart enough to know fighting some angry black lesbians, not her job, and it would lead to a collapse of the league. If there ever is video of Caitlin Clark having a fight with one of these tatted up, angry black lesbians, the whole league collapses. Because nobody wants to see that. And then all hell breaks loose. It's like the malice in the palace. So she's got to be smart in how she fights back. And the number one thing she needs is her teammates, and particularly Nylisa Smith, to do the fighting for. You remember when Carmella Cardoso and I think it was Flau'jae Johnson in the NCAA tournament, someone put hands on Flau'jae, and Carmella Cardoso, 6'7" center, now plays for Chicago South, shoved the girl to the ground, came right over there and said, "Not in my house." That Cardoso playing her role. They have to have that in Indiana. It's not Aaliyah Boston's job. And I know she's got the size, but that's not her personality. Aaliyah Boston is one of the nicest, most positive people on the planet. Plus, she's an offensive player. She's the #1 draft pick. But mostly it's just personality. There's nothing ghetto about Aaliyah Boston. It's just the opposite. Not her. She can't do it. You have to have an enforcer. This has been the tradition in sports. When you have a star this big that people are jealous of and people are angry at, in hockey, they used to try to beat up Wayne Gretzky, white guy, playing against a bunch of other white guys. But they knew if they could rough him up, they could take the Edmonton Oilers out of their game. And so they had a guy named Dave Zemenko who would come in and fight Gretzky's fights and make sure people paid a price for playing rough with Wayne Gretzky. That's what you have to have here in the WNBA, and it needs to be a black girl that has Caitlyn's back. Because if it's a white girl, it's going to turn into a little race thing, and the next thing you know, all the race baiters at ESPN will turn it into something that it's not. There's a tradition of this in sports. Carrington should be suspended. It's criminal that there was no flagrant call here. She should be she should be given a flagrant 2 today, and it should be announced she'll be suspended for game 2. They got to protect Caitlyn. They got to protect their meal ticket. And I don't care if the race baiters don't like it and, oh, they're just defending. They should be defending Caitlyn Clark. She's making them all money. If there's a chance that the WNBA season is going to end on Wednesday when Connecticut beats the Indiana Fever in game 2. Because once that happens, everybody turns off the TV. And I'm not saying they should fix the game. I'm not saying they shouldn't. But you can't let this type of ghetto BS and someone getting stabbed in the eyes with these long, what are they doing letting them wear these long fingernails out on the court? Dangerous. But if this goes unaddressed and they get beat up again in game 2, the way they were, there's going to be a lot of, there will be, I can't wait to see the ratings after Caitlyn Clark's eliminated. Because all of this extra effort, they're going into the, oh, Aaliyah Thomas has a triple-double, and Asia Wilson is doing X, Y. Ain't nobody watching that, and don't nobody care. And y'all not going to build these guys up into superstars without Caitlyn Clark. I'm not watching it. No one else is. It's that damn Las Vegas Aces game last night was relatively close. It was close until the fourth quarter, and I'm looking at an ESPN story says something about Asia Wilson does MVP things. And I was like, 21 points and 8 rebounds? Nice day, but they're trying to play it up like, oh, in the second half, she just, because she had a bad first half, went 1-8 and, blah. But the game was decided by the Las Vegas Aces defense. They gave up 2 points in the fourth quarter. That's what the story should have been focused on. Instead, they focused it on Asia Wilson. And it's all a concerted effort. We're going to make these other people stars. We're going to, you got to see this history. Asia Wilson's having the greatest season in WNBA history. She's the greatest basketball player in women's history. No, she ain't. She ain't on Candace Parker's level. Ain't even close. She ain't on Lisa Leslie's level. Nice player, great player, but cut it out. All of this bending over, and you're missing the real story. The real story was the Aces defense and how they nearly shut out a team in the fourth quarter. It's not mentioned. Because there's this rig job, and we got to focus all this tension on these individuals. We're going to make them into superstars. And we're going to allow Caitlyn Clark to be stabbed at midcourt 2 minutes into a game. Ridiculous. Had to get that off my chest. Thank you. We'll play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back, we are receiving, all deceiving, we all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just wanna be, I just want